How's everybody doing today? We've got another team analysis video for the Chef Goon Sword and Shield Draft League. We're going to be going a little bit out of order here. We've got a replacement player, DPhantom, who is taking the place of Raksha. So his picks in total are Conkeldurr, Mamoswine, Boltund, Duraludon, Unfezant, Inteleon, Arcanine, Sableye, Garbodor, and Gothitelle. So we're going to start off here with a pretty normal team, I think. Probably the core team for his builds. Starting off with Conkeldurr with a Flame Orb and Guts. The Flame Orb, as we had said in the past video, at the end of the turn it's going to burn the holder. With the Guts ability, it's going to increase your attack by 1.5, and you ignore the burn halving the physical damage. So basically it acts as a souped up version of a life orb. For the attacks, we've got Drain Punch, it's stab, and it's going to get the boost from Guts, as is all of his attacks. But this one is going to recover 50% of the damage dealt with max attack and max HP, and the Guts boost. Your attack is going to be pretty ginormous. It's going to be really hard for even things that resist it to swap in on the Drain Punch. But even regardless, you're going to be healing up the life lost, which is great. With Flame Orb, it allows you to bulk out attacks and then hit back really hard. So probably his greatest stab move that he can go for. Next up, we've got Mach Punch. As we said, stab. This one has priority, so it can take out like Tyrannotars, Hydreigons, anything that's weak to it. So it's a really great move to outspeed things that normally would outspeed you and knock them out quickly. Can even come in and just revenge kill. It'll definitely force a switch. So we're covering next the coverage moves. I believe here the most normal moves are going to be Thunder Punch or Fire Punch. You could also go Ice Punch or one of the other coverage moves that he has, including like Earthquake, just things of that nature. And then Stone Edge, so he can attack the flying types that might come in on him. And as we said, EV's max HP, max attack is going to be pretty much on every set that we see. For next, we have Mamoswine. This is the normal Mamoswine that you'll see on Showdown every day. Focus Sash with Thick Fat. Thick Fat is going to mean that you take half damage from fire and ice attacks. So it negates the fire weakness that it has, and it will negate the ice neutrality, I guess, because ground is weak to ice, ice resists ice, so ice becomes neutral, or ice becomes a slight resistance, I guess. We have the Focus Sash. Even though he does have fairly decent defensive stats, normally you're going to bring this out to set up rocks, you're going to eat a hit, and then you're going to get to either go for a priority, you get to go for a strong attack, or you can make a swap. So the Focus Sash is just going to guarantee that the Mamoswine isn't just knocked out right from the start. For the moves, we have Stealth Rock, Ice Shard, Priority, Stab. It's great for Mamoswine to be able to take on things that are normally faster, or things that can set up. Icicle Crash, his strongest stab move. Alternatively to Icicle Crash, though, you can do Icicle Spear, and that'll be better if you predict your opponent to go for substitutes and things like that. So it'll break through the sub and do a little bit of damage. And then Earthquake is his most powerful stab attack. Ground type, 100 base power, so goes up to a 150 base, pretty strong. For the EVs, we're going max attack, max speed, jolly nature. You just want to be able to outspeed the most amount of things that you can. We have Duraludon next. This one is a choice specs with Stalwart. Stalwart's not really going to play too much of an effect here, but really his other abilities don't do anything. Light metal, heavy metal doesn't come into effect with this build, so I think just having the Stalwart is maybe something that comes up that isn't predicted. Maybe even like a Volt Absorb or something gets negated because of the Stalwart, so that could be probably the only option that you go with. Specs is going to increase your special attack, which is a 120 base. So when it's maxed out at level 100, you're at 372. so you can get the 1.5 times boost. For attacks, we have Flash Cannon, which is a great stab attack. Draco Meteor, big damage stab also. Thunderbolt for coverage. Alternatively, you could go Dark Pulse, maybe even Dragon Pulse if you don't want to click that Draco Meteor all the time. Coverage, he doesn't really have great options, so it's kind of limited between those two. Could even go like Thunder and Solar Beam if he's playing against a weather team, but more than likely it's going to be T-Bolt most of the time. And then Steel Beam, 140 base. You lose half of your max HP, but it's a huge hit. Things that resistant with choice specs, they're going to take a giant chunk. And for the EVs for this set, we're going almost max HP. We just want to have that odd number for the hazards. We've got max special attack and a modest nature, so we can do the biggest amount of damage possible. Next, we have Unpheasant. For this set, it's going to be acting as a defogger, so we've got the heavy duty boots on there to prevent it from taking any stealth rocks damage. For the ability, they don't really matter too much, so you can go big pecs to prevent your defense from getting lowered, so you can switch in on things that are like maybe the Flame Slash or something from Cindiscorch, just kind of things that you might not think about. The other option is Super Luck, so increase your crit ratio by 1 stage. Really, this isn't big on attacking. You do have the Brave Bird, so stab attack, got a pretty nice attack stat, so that'll be doing like pretty big damage. But ultimately, this is going to be acting as a support mon, so it's kind of just up to kind of whatever you want for these. If you are wanting to use this as more an attacker, though, probably go with Super Luck, and then Big Pecs if you're going defensive. U-turn, as we already covered, the Brave Bird just for extra damage. U-turn is going to allow you to get some momentum in the match. Defog, get rid of any hazards, and then Roost to heal yourself back up later. For this build, we're going max attack, max speed, jolly nature. We want to outspeed as many things as we can, get that defog off, and then U-turn if possible. Next we have Garbodor with Black Sludge and weak armor. His abilities, kind of like Unpheasant's, they're not super great, so we wouldn't go Stench just because Garbodor is going to be slower most of the time. So it'd be better to just use the weak armor so that you can get that speed boost. For the moves, we have Spikes, Haze, Toxic, and Gunk Shot. Spikes is going to be to get that extra hazard. Alternatively, you could go Toxic Spikes, but it's more of a build around, whereas Spikes is going to be better in most matches. Haze to prevent your opponent from setting up anything in front of you. Toxic so that you can kind of stall out an opponent, prevent them from sweeping you with one thing. And Gunk Shot to do big damage to fairy types. For the EVs, we've got max HP, max special defense with a careful nature. This is going to allow us to be the special wall. Not great defensive stats, but poison type is actually pretty decent for resistances. Just got to watch out for those earthquakes and such. Finally, we have a Choice Scarf Bolton. So this is going to increase the speed by 1.5. And Strong Jaw is the ability. So it's going to increase any of the Fang attacks, any bites, by 1.5. So it's almost as if it has a choice band as well, which is pretty cool. Because the build that we're running is Thunder Fang, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to argue that Wild Charge is better, but actually with the Strong Jaw boost, Thunder Fang has more power than the Wild Charge. You just sacrifice 5% accuracy for it, so not really a big deal, I think. I think that more power is going to be doing more in the long run. We have Fire Fang, Crunch, and Psychic Fangs as coverage. Now, Bolton actually has a pretty good move pool. He could go Volt Switch if he wants to get some extra momentum. He has Play Rough. There's, I guess, not too much after that actually. But yeah, this is probably going to be the more common move pool just so you can get the extra Strong Draw boost. Play rough would be alternate if somebody doesn't really have much resistance to that, or if you see an opportunity to get that through where these other moves wouldn't. EVs, we have max attack, max speed. It is 121 base, so it's pretty quick. There's not very many things in the draft that are faster. There's Noivern and Dragapult, and past that I don't know that there are any really. So max attack, max speed allow us to outspeed the most amount of things as possible with the Jolly nature, and then just max attack so we can do extra damage. For the next team here, we have the Gothitelle build. So this time on the Conkeldurr, we're going Flayborn with Guts like normal, Dragon Punch, Mach Punch, kind of pretty core for his builds. We have Defog here, so that he can be the one that gets rid of the entry hazards, and then Facade. Alternatively, you can go Stone Edge, which works pretty well with the Defog actually, which decreases their evasiveness. So the Stone Edge has a higher chance to hit. EVs like normal, max HP, max attack. For this Mamoswine, we are going Life Orb Thick Fat. So we're going to be doing extra damage with this Mamoswine. We've got Ice Shard, Icicle Spear, Earthquake, and then Stone Edge as the coverage. Instead of Stone Edge, you could do like Rock Blast if you're wanting to get through more subs and that does more. Superpower if you're not wanting to rely on the Conkeldurr for the fighting attacks. I believe it has maybe Fire Fang. I guess it doesn't have it this name. Not sure if it ever did. But anyway, I think these attacks, maybe even switch out this for the Icicle Crash, but it's mainly just so that things can't set up in front of you. Same EVs as before, max attack, max speed, Jolly nature. We have a support Duraludon, Light Clay, and Stalwart. We have Stealth Rocks, Light Screen, Reflect, which will be increased to 8 turns because of the Light Clay. Then we have Steel Beam again, just so you can use this as kind of like a sack for if your opponent's trying to go for maybe a rapid spin. Maybe they're trying to set up something and you need to get either Conkeldurr or Mamoswine in, or as we're going to cover now, the Gothitelle. So EVs for this Duraludon, max HP, max defense, just to be the defensive wall. Now the Gothitelle here is Leftovers and Shadow Tag. Shadow Tag is banned in Smogon OU, but we are allowing it in our tournament here. We're going to see how it does. So we've got Cosmic Power, Nasty Plot, Stored Power, and Shadow Ball. Cosmic Power is going to increase the defense and special defense. So you try to get this in on one of your opponent's like setters, maybe like a Pharaoh Seed, Toxapex, something like that. Get this in, has a Cosmic Power up. Then you can hit a Nasty Plot or two. And then Stored Power is going to do a bunch of damage. This gets an extra 20% or extra 20 power for each of the user's stat boost. So after Cosmic Power, this goes from a 20 base up to a 60 base. And when you do Nasty Plot, same thing. So if you get a Cosmic Power and a Nasty Plot, suddenly this becomes a 100 base attack that's also stab because of the Psychic. We have Shadow Ball as the coverage attack, but you can swap that out to Dark Pulse, Energy Ball, Grass Knot, or Thunderbolt. EVs, we're going max HP, max special defense, and let's get the nature on there right. So Calm Nature, just to give us the most amount of bulk possible. Next up, we have a Choice Scarfed Inteleon. For DPhantom's picks, he's more than likely going to bring either Boltund or Inteleon. Both of them are fast, and both of them do a lot of damage. Not really necessary to bring both of them. I could see him doing it if the opportunity arises, but I think most of the time he's going to be using one or the other. So we have the Choice Scarf on here. Only ability that Inteleon has currently is Torrent, so we're stuck with that. So we've got Ice Beam, Hydro Pump, U-Turn for Momentum, and then Dark Pulse as a coverage. Instead of Dark Pulse, you could do Shadow Ball, you could do Scald, but I think that this is going to be a pretty normal setup with the team that he has here. Max Speed, Max Special Attack with a Timid Nature. You want to get the highest amount of speed possible, especially with that Choice Scarf. Finally, we have the Rocky Helmet Intimidate Arcanine. We're running Morning Sun, Will-O-Wisp, Flare Blitz, and Extreme Speed. Extreme Speed is pretty unique to this Pokemon in the game. It has +2 priority instead of the normal +1. That's the great thing about DPhantom's team, is that he has a lot of mons with priority, so he doesn't really have to worry about setup sweepers quite as bad as some of the other players might. Rocky Helmet and Intimidate is going to mean that the Arcanine can come in on physical attackers pretty easily. They're going to hit them, they're going to lose a 6 of their max HP, so it's going to really want to pressure away those physical attackers, and it can maybe get you time to heal yourself back up, get a status out with the Will-O-Wisp, or just go for a big Flare Blitz. EVs, Max HP, Max Attack, Adamant Nature, do a big amount of damage, be bulky. That's all Arcanine's going to be here for. Finally, this is kind of a oddball team, just some extra ideas for kind of his pretty set team. Most of the mons that he picked are the ones that when you think about them, there's just one set that pops into your head. So these are some of the more different sets, I would say. So we have a Leftovers with Guts Conkeldurr, and we're running Rest, Sleep Talk, Bulk Up, and Drain Punch. Now Guts is interesting because it says when you're statused. Facade does not. It just says if you're burned, poisoned, or paralyzed. So unfortunately Facade doesn't work with it, otherwise we might be using that over Drain Punch. But Rest, it's going to heal us back up to full. We're asleep for 2 turns exactly, so that's something to keep in mind, DPhantom, if you're watching this, that you're going to be asleep for 2 turns for sure, every time. It's not like normal sleep. You're two turns, so you click Sleep Talk 2 turns, and then that 3rd turn you're going to click Bulk Up or Drain Punch, because you're going to wake up after that. Sleep Talk, so you can do things while you're sleeping. Bulk Up, increase our attack and defense by 1 stage. Conkeldurr's defense is not the greatest, but boosting that attack with the Guts boost means that this Drain Punch is going to be doing a crap ton of damage to anything that comes in on it. Max HP, Max Attack, as all Conkeldurr sets are. Next, we're doing a Weakness Policy, Thick Fat Mamoswine. Even though Thick Fat gives us the resistances, it doesn't actually apply it to the Mon. So it's still going to say that he's getting super effective damage when he takes a fire hit, even though he is technically neutral to it. So with that, the Weakness Policy can activate, raise our attack and special attack by 2 stages. Now normally you just use the Weakness Policy for one or the other, but this set is actually pretty unique in that we're running Stealth Rocks, Ice Shard, Earthquake, and Freeze Dry. Freeze Dry is going to allow DPhantom's team to deal with water types more effectively, and once we have the Weakness Policy boost, the Freeze Dry is actually going to be doing a considerable amount of damage to those. EVs, we are Max Attack, Max Speed, Naive Nature this time, so we're going down on Special Defense, which is a little bit risky, but we need to make sure that we have that extra special attack for the Freeze Dry. Next we have a Leftovers Prankster Sableye. This is a pretty common set actually. So Taunt, Will-O-Wisp, Recover, Knockoff. You just want this to be a utility mon. Stop like a setter from doing anything and then click a knockoff. You can Prankster Recover, so it'll be really hard for somebody to chunk down. EVs, we have Max HP, Max Special Defense. We just want this guy to be bulky. He's only weak to Fairy type, so that's something to watch out for, but with the Max Special Defense, it means that most of the Fairy attacks, which are special, are not going to be doing too much to him. Next we have a Choice Scarf Duraludon. So instead of the specs, we're going to go with the opposite route. His speed's not crazy high, but it is pretty decent, and with a Scarf he can outspeed things that aren't. So Timid Nature, max speed, max special attack. We are running the same attacks, so Steel Beam, Flash Cannon, Draco, Thunderbolt, just because he doesn't have the greatest moveset on the special side. We have a Rocky Helmet, Big Pecs, Unpheasant. As we said before, the abilities aren't too much different, but I think on this set you want to run Big Pecs just so you can be more defensive. We have the same moves, Roost, Defog, Brave Bird, U-Turn. Alternatively to maybe the Brave Bird is, you can go for, it has, Hypnosis. I'm not sure that I love it, especially with the 60% accuracy. So it's something to consider, but I wouldn't be thinking about it too much. EVs, we're going max HP, max defense, Impus Nature. We want a little bit of attack just to do something with the Brave Bird, and that defense is going to help us out about things that aren't going for super effective hits. Finally, we have the Aguave Berry, Intimidate Arcanine. Now, Aguave Berry, when we get down to 33% max HP, we're going to heal by 1/4, as long as we're not minus Spadef Nature. You can choose any of the 33% ones, as long as it's not one that is the minus attack nature. Intimidate is going to reduce the attack of physical, and this is actually a special Arcanine set. So we're running Snarl and Flamethrower instead of physical attacks. And Arcanine actually has a 100 base special attack, so the same as Dragapult, which I think a lot of people overlook. We're running Modest Nature, so max special attack, max speed. We want to get the most amount of damage off that we can. We're not too worried about this set outspeeding things, because the things that do outspeed it, it's kind of not that big of a deal, because we are also packing the Roar. So that is -6 priority, which means you're going to be going last regardless of what your opponent is doing. So Snarl reduces the special attack by 1 stage, Morning Sun to heal up, Roar to get rid of any kind of sweepers, or if you get the rocks up and you want to just make your opponent take the damage, then this can be a good way to do it. And Flamethrower just to do some reliable stab damage. So anyway guys, I hope you all enjoyed. DPhantom, I know that you're probably in the process of building your team, so I would take a look at these builds. Don't do these exactly, of course, but take them into account while you're building and change some things up for each match that you got. Guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you can see our next videos when they come up, and be on the lookout for those. Have a great day.